Arby's is disgusting, but a lot of people love it.
Oh my God.
In the fast food industry, there's no restaurant as controversial as Arby's, because it seems like people either love Arby's or are unable to comprehend why anyone would ever eat here. Images of their massive meaty sandwiches, such as the Meat Mountain, may fill you with ravenous hunger
Wow.
or existential dread. For those of us in the dread camp, it comes as a surprise that Arby's is still around in 2025, pushing the same roast beef sandwiches and interrupting our nightly programs with,
"We have the meat."
This may shock you, but Arby's is doing well. Very well. They have 3,600 locations, and last year, they made over $4 billion and sold 140 million roast beef sandwiches. If you do the math, that comes out to almost 400,000 sandwiches served per day. A lot of people want their meats, but that leaves us with one question, or actually two questions. Where does the Arby's hate stem from, and how are they so successful today? To get our answers, we gotta take a trip to the past. Welcome to 1964, the birth year of America's meatiest restaurant. So how did Arby's get their start? Back in the 1960s, brothers Forrest and Leroy Raffle were looking to get out from the restaurant equipment business. More than anything, they were in search of a more profitable business venture. The boys were inspired by the recent success of Ray Kroc, the man who just bought the rights to franchise the McDonald's brothers hamburger. In this, they saw an opportunity. The fast food industry was booming, so they decided to strike while the iron was hot. Right away, they knew it'd be too risky to do a hamburger, because McDonald's was already dominating the market, and Burger King was gaining traction in the franchising game. Based on this, the brothers decided they needed a different, distinguishing product to star on their menu, and I'm sure you can guess what they went with. The one and only roast beef sandwich. On July 23rd, 1964, they opened their first restaurant in Boardman, Ohio. They named it Arby's, based on their initials, Raffle Brothers. They sold slow-cooked roast beef sandwiches, iced tea, and other soft drinks. For just 69 cents, customers could get a taste of the Raffle Brothers meat. And you know what? They loved it. However, back in the day, 69 cents was a lot to pay for a sandwich, especially when you compare it to a McDonald's burger at the time, which only costed 15 cents. So going to Arby's was over 4 times more expensive than going to McDonald's. The brothers took a risk pricing their sandwich so high, but it paid off. Within the next year, they had opened 5 more stores, and after that, growth went crazy. By 1970, the Raffle brothers grew Arby's to 300 locations in 30-plus states. And their beefy empire had officially begun. Arby's grew bigger than the brothers ever could have anticipated. They felt like they were on the path to cementing themselves next to fast food giants like McDonald's and Burger King. Expansion at this point was their main focus. However, expanding that big, that fast, takes a lot of money. And up until this point, Arby's had gotten by with loans from banks. With all this in mind, they decided to take the company public to hopefully raise enough cash to fund their expansion plans. But this plan backfired in a way they never could have imagined. On the day they were set to go public, worst case scenario, the market essentially collapsed, and this left Arby's in a horrible position. They'd expected to make tons of money from this public offering, probably millions, but they made zero, nothing. Eventually, they could no longer pay their bills, and things only got worse from here. The banks who'd previously loaned Arby's money to help keep them afloat came calling to protect their investment. The banks effectively took over Arby's and fired 125 employees at the firm's headquarters and slashed services to franchises. Franchisees became so frustrated to the point where they stopped paying royalties. The company was falling apart at the seams. In November 1970, Arby's filed for bankruptcy. But miraculously, 5 months after the bankruptcy, the brothers somehow regained control of the company, and they spent the next few years fixing the business and restoring profits prior to their failed IPO. In 1975, the Raffle brothers had 500 Arby's locations, and once again, they were thirsty for expansion. Like before, they still needed lots of cash to make this possible, so once again, they tried to take Arby's public. I'm totally kidding. They learned their lesson from last time, and instead of trying to take Arby's public again, they decided on merging with a larger company. So in 1976, the Raffle brothers sold Arby's to Royal Crown Cola, aka RC Cola, for $18 million. During these next few years, the brothers remained involved with operations, and Arby's saw huge profits and sales increases. They added on another 300 units, which brought their grand total to 800 locations. Arby's was a money-making machine. They were at the absolute top of their game. But later that year, in 1979, the Raffle brothers decided to leave the company. They ended up retiring as multimillionaires. Yet, this left Arby's in a strange position. The Raffle brothers were responsible for the success of Arby's up until this point, and now they were gone. By 1983, things were in a state of disarray. Without the brothers, Arby's was lost, directionless. They even deviated from their tried and true roast beef and started serving hamburgers in order to compete with McDonald's and Burger King. But in 1984, a man named Victor Posner obtained Arby's via a hostile takeover of their parent company, RC Cola. Posner then appointed a man named Leonard Roberts as CEO, and Roberts began attempting to breathe life back into the company. As soon as he came aboard, he began making necessary changes at Arby's, with a focus on their menu. He realized that the roast beef was what made Arby's special. That was their niche. So he returned to the roast beef only menu and also added some specialty items. He also tightened up their quality standards, which set them on a path towards growth. By 1989, they had 2,000 locations that made over $1 billion per year. At the time, this made Arby's the 12th biggest fast food chain in the industry. Today, Arby's has a whopping 3,600 locations all over the world. Even if you're in Egypt, you're covered. Alright, so what's up with the Arby's hate, and where does it all come from? There seems to be something alive in the collective consciousness of American TV viewers, and that's discussed over an Arby's meat sandwich. This is probably due to the endless Arby's references in pop culture that have slowly bled into our subconscious minds for decades. Based on my research, the first significant jab at Arby's came from The Simpsons in 1998. In this episode, the children find themselves shipwrecked on an island, and the situation becomes so desperate that one character says,
"I'm so hungry I could eat at Arby's. Oh my gosh."
This seems to be the origin of poking fun at Arby's, at least in pop culture.
Why does a dog have human girlfriends?
People do crazy things in ads, like eat at Arby's.
And of course, Family Guy got in on the action.
Hey, what's going on in that room? It's a focus group of Arby's executives watching us eat.
Oh,
He ate it. People will eat anything.
Crocs and Arby's? Oh my God, you're making...
Meats.
Arby's. We don't judge. We just hand out shaved meats.
But never was Arby's roasted as extensively as they were by Jon Stewart on The Daily Show.
Arby's. Isn't there anywhere else we can eat Arby's? Arby's. Arby's with sliced something. Technically, it's food. Come for the tweets. Run from the meats. Come on, baby. Come on.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
Boom! Why not challenge your stomach to a fight? You think pain and grief are hard to digest. It's like shock and awe for your bowels. The meal that's a dare for your colon. It's like if a stomach could get punched in the balls. All right, fine. Arby's.
Thank you for being a friend.
Arby's always kept their cool though, responding with jokes of their own. One thing Arby's has always done well is know their place. They've never tried to come across as something they're not. In fact, they cleverly lean into their meaty reputation with goofy ads. Back in 2014, when other restaurants were chasing the popular health food craze, former Arby's president Rob Lynch said, "We decided not to do the same."
Hi, I'm Rob Lynch.
And instead double down on our reason for being: quality meats. Over the years, Arby's has dealt with a barrage of haters and jokesters and trolls. But at the end of the day, their numbers don't lie. They're successful and growing. Their goofy marketing campaigns are hitting, and they have a loyal customer base that consistently buys their meats. If you want a roast beef sandwich on the go, you have one option: Arby's. They have no direct competition in the fast food world, and this allows them to dominate, regardless of what Jon Stewart thinks. I personally find myself asking, who out there is fueling the success of Arby's? If you are one of these people, leave a comment below and share why. What are you ordering from Arby's in 2025? Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe.
Arby's, you are making a mistake.